Sometimes the subtlest harmonies are the most sublime. So harmony indeed. So curious minds are wondering, we heard a little bit about it, but as a singer and a traveler and touring, what brings you to FoodWorx?
For many years it's been really, is that okay? For many years it's been really exciting to have two careers, two lives that are so vastly different. But the best is when my two worlds collide. And with the band, we traveled just last year, just in the last 12 months, we traveled to over 140 cities in almost 30 countries. And of course, as a sommelier and a big foodie, my favorite thing to do is I'm going to take advantage of it, of course, and I'm going to seek out local traditional foods and wines and spirits and beers, and always, as a sommelier, of course, always trying to pair. I think someone at FoodWorx thought that might be lend a certain perspective that might be interesting to some people here. So I think that's why I'm here.
And I love chatting with Timothy. I've learned so much, and there's so much depth to your personality and the things that you do, and particularly about harmony and sharing. So recently, the Washington Post had an article that named Portland as the #1 food city. And as a global traveler who's seen 135 cities in a year and dined in every one of them, what is your perspective on that?
Well, I don't know if Portland is necessarily the #1 food city in the United States. But one thing that I have noticed in my travels is a distinct movement towards more local, more artisanal, more handmade, more sustainable, green. And while these concepts and while these things are not new, I think it's almost like we're going back to our roots. We're going back to simple and handmade and artisanal. So, but I think what makes the difference now, and what I've seen over the last few years, especially, is that people care. Obviously people care. That the consumer cares, the restaurateurs care, the chefs care, and it's really super exciting for me. Just to know that people care about the environment, they care about what's going in their bodies, and they care about how the animals are being treated. And it's exciting, right? So, and while I don't think Portland, how it's related to this article in the Washington Post, I think, is that I don't think Portland was the pioneer in all of these things. But I think, just from my experience, it seems like Portland was the only city as a whole that embraced all of that, and that like as a whole, not everyone, not every restaurant, of course, but as a whole, we've made a big effort to walk the walk, and I think for that reason alone, I think that the attention that Portland has gotten for its food and beverage scene is well deserved. And I think, again, I don't know if Portland is the #1 city. It's not my favorite city for food in terms of restaurants, but again, I think that it's well deserved.
Indeed. And you have a different perspective, or another layer of perspective as well. Bring us back to Portland. You've been a restaurant owner. You are a sommelier, and indeed the singing sommelier, and many would say the best sommelier in Portland, and the wine buyer for Made in Oregon with a mission for the state, not just the city. From a business perspective, what do you think about serving and creating an atmosphere for people and bringing something to the plate and you're creating it for them? What's your perspective on that?
For me, I think it's super exciting to be a sommelier at this time. Again, I think people, I'm seeing it, all over on on wine lists. I'm seeing the names of the sommelier. People know what a sommelier is, and there's a reason for that, because people are paying more attention to it. People care. They're intrigued. I think we're still at a it's like baby steps. Of course, there have been sommeliers around the world for decades and decades, but it's really exciting because people care. People think more about how you can take a great wine and take a great dish, put them together, and they're a disaster. You can also, and you walk away just thinking, oh, that, not having a great experience. But inversely, you could also have an okay wine, an okay dish, put them together, and they're glorious. And that for me is exciting to be able to share that. This is one of my favorite things about being a sommelier, and just like with my music, I love to share I love to share my discoveries in my music and the pairings, and so from a sommelier's standpoint, it's exciting. From a restaurant owner's perspective, it's really tough to walk the walk. It's really tough to walk the walk and make money and thrive. And that is one of the biggest issues, I think, for a lot of people, for a lot of restaurant owners, for a lot of chefs, because we want to walk the walk every step of the way, but it's really difficult. And that's something that I think that a lot of people don't understand. And I think, in Portland, I think we live in a bubble. And, I think a lot of people in Portland, a lot of the consumers, a lot of restaurant goers, diners, want all of the restaurants to walk the walk. The problem is they don't want to pay for it. In Portland, there are a lot of cities like Portland where prices are lower. You go to for the quality that we get in Portland, you would pay way more in most cities in the United States, and of course Europe and Asia, maybe not Asia, but and it's to me people don't understand that in Portland, and I think it's a shame. So again, it's as a restaurant owner, it's really tough.
Indeed, and we've discovered in Portland it's tough because we find restaurants close sometimes, and the new ones crop up. And kudos to you for the longevity of Copia and what you've been able to do. Talk a little bit about, if you would, just globally, because you've seen so much and been able to compare so much, the future of food and the good, the bad, the ugly, but what sense you might have of that.
Well, again, I think the just the movement that I've seen, that's just so evident, that I've already kind of spoken about, the movement towards the consumer and the diners supporting restaurants. And of course, typically when I think of the future of food, when I think of food, it's usually, from my perspective, it's usually from the plate, from when it lands on the plate and it gets to the diners. So that's mostly what I'm speaking of. But I think, again, just for me, I think it's really exciting to see that places are being supported. And if there's a takeaway in this for any of you, hopefully all of us can understand that some of the costs that are involved on the when restaurants and chefs are going local and organic and sustainable and green, and the next time or every time that you're at a restaurant and you're paying your dining mate is paying a couple dollars more than he paid yesterday at some other restaurant and is complaining, maybe you can just gently let them know, well, these guys it's local, it's organic, and it's more expensive for them. I think a lot of people, not just in Portland, but I think a lot of people just assume that the restaurant owner is gouging them if it's a little high priced. But again, it's exciting because people are more aware and people care, and that's people care about what's going in their bodies and how the environment is affected, and so
that's wonderful to hear. Do you have anything else you'd like to add? It's been such a joy. He and I talk for hours, so this can go very, very deep, and we don't have that much time. But the fine points are really important. You've touched on them well. But would you like to add anything else?
I don't think so.
No, well, I just want to say, do check out toureatdrink.com and hashtag toureatdrink, because Timothy also writes. And these photos are showing you a bit about what it's like to like to be on tour and eating and drinking. So thank you very much.
Thank you.